Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a paradox that I think keeps countless business owners awake at night.
Absolutely.
The operation looks successful, maybe even, booming. The workflow is constant, the orders are stacking up,
Yeah.
and in the world of logistics and transport that our source material focuses on, the trucks are constantly turning, the revenue reports look fantastic,
Right.
but then you check the bank account balance and the numbers, they just don't match the activity. There's this deep, persistent, and frankly terrifying tension.
And that tension for our listener, that's the financial danger zone.
Yeah.
The insights we've compiled, they really emphasize that cash flow problems are rarely sudden events. They're slow burn issues that build quietly in the background.
And they're disguised by the very things that seem to indicate success.
Exactly. By the time the pressure becomes visible, when you can't make payroll or you're choosing which bill to delay, it's often too late to prevent a full-blown crisis.
So our mission today is clarity. We're providing you with the diagnostic tools to spot those quiet warning signs.
hmm
And while the sources focus heavily on transport, where costs like fuel are volatile and payment cycles are notoriously long,
Right.
the core principles apply to pretty much any business where cash moves on a delayed timeline. We want to give you control so you can correct course while you still have flexible options.
To do that, we have to start with the fundamental confusion that allows these problems to even take root in the first place.
Okay.
Why are cash flow issues so easy to miss when you're busy? It's because there is a critical distinction that often gets overlooked. Profit and cash,
Yeah.
they are not the same thing.
This is the central paradox, isn't it? I mean, most business owners understand profitability revenue minus expenses equals profit.
Sure, on a basic level.
And if that number's positive, I'm doing well. But that logic, you're saying, can be a trap. Why can a business be profitable on paper and still just run out of cash?
It all comes down to timing and liquidity. Think of it like this.
Yeah.
Profit is the total amount of money you will have earned, once all the bills are paid and all the invoices are collected.
So it's an accounting concept. It's almost theoretical in the moment.
Exactly. It's an accounting concept.
Yeah.
But cash is what you have available today to pay for today's expenses.
Okay.
That gap between those two defines your working capital.
So the profit might be excellent, but if your customers take, say, 60 or 90 days to pay, all that profit is currently stuck. It's in accounts receivable.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the bills for the things that generated that profit, the fuel, driver wages, supplier costs, those are all due now.
Precisely. And that timing mismatch is where the liquidity pressure starts. The sources, they identify several common culprits, all of which demand cash immediately.
Like what?
Things like rising costs, like volatile fuel prices, unexpected shocks such as a major equipment breakdown, regulatory deadlines like tax payments.
And fixed finance repayments.
Yes, all of these demands hit your bank account now, while your payment for the work is sitting weeks or even months away.
That is the perfect analogy for being successful but poor. Your assets are tied up and your bank account is running on fumes.
And what's fascinating here is that the goal of this diagnostic work isn't necessarily about becoming suddenly more profitable.
Right.
It's about building the foresight to manage that timing mismatch. The key is to shift your focus from tracking the paper profit to tracking the actual flow of money in and out of the operation.
And to do that long before the stress becomes visible.
Exactly.
And that operational view brings us to the core of this deep dive. The sources outline 5 critical silent warning signs that indicate your margin for error is shrinking fast. These signals, they often just look like unavoidable stress, but they're actually screaming danger warnings that the fundamental structure of your operation is flawed. Here's where we get into the details that really stick.
And these 5 signs, they should be treated as quantifiable data points, not just, anecdotal complaints about a tough week. If you recognize them, it means structural change is needed immediately.
Okay, so let's start with warning sign number 1. You are constantly juggling payments.
Yeah.
This isn't just a minor delay. This is that regular, high-stress game of deciding which supplier you can afford to alienate this week or which payment can be pushed back just a few more days.
That constant juggling is the sign of a business that is financially living hand-to-mouth. It means you have zero reserve capacity.
No buffer at all.
None. If you're spending time every single week figuring out which bills can wait, the insurance, the tires, the fuel card, you're sacrificing future stability for immediate survival.
And if any external shock hits,
Like a major breakdown or a fuel price spike, you have nothing to absorb it. That cash management stress is the crisis waiting to happen.
Absolutely. The operation is dictating the finances instead of the healthy financial structure supporting the operations.
Which moves us to warning sign number 2, which I think is maybe the most insidious one.
Okay.
Growth is making things tighter, not easier. Most entrepreneurs feel that growth is the solution to everything. If I just add 2 more clients or 2 more trucks, the cash crunch will magically disappear.
Wait, I have to push back on that a little. If I'm growing revenue, doesn't that inherently mean my pricing and my contracts must be working? Why would success turn into a liability?
That is the right question to ask, because the problem isn't the volume of work. It's the structure of the financing that's required to sustain that growth.
Okay.
This is what we call the negative working capital cycle.
Okay.
So to take on a new profitable contract, you first have to pay for all the inputs.
Hmm.
The fuel, the payroll for the new driver, maybe a down payment on new equipment. That money leaves your account today.
And your big new customer doesn't pay you until 60 or 90 days later, so you're funding their operating costs.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You are the bank. So if you add volume to an already misaligned system, you just accelerate the rate at which you burn through your cash.
So what causes that?
It could be poorly priced contracts where the margin is thinner than you think, or, and this is crucial, adding assets without sufficient working capital. Every new piece of equipment immediately becomes a drag on liquidity before it generates enough cash to sustain itself.
That's a powerful insight. You're running faster, but since you're running uphill, you're just exhausting your resources that much faster.
Which brings us to warning sign number 3. Governmental tax obligations, like VAT, becoming a regular shock.
Yes.
In any business with large governmental tax liabilities, VAT, sales tax, payroll withholding, you should treat those funds not as operating cash, but as money you are holding in trust for the government.
Yet for so many companies, these quarterly or semi-annual payments always seem to require emergency funding, sometimes even a short-term loan just to avoid penalties.
And that shock is a major indicator of deep mismanagement. The sources identify the core symptom here. You're using those governmental liability funds to plug short-term operating gaps. It signals weak cash forecasting, a failure to separate operating cash from your tax obligations, and a really dangerous habit of borrowing from a source that will eventually demand payment instantly and with penalties.
So in effect, you are confusing the cash in your account with the cash you actually own.
Exactly. Okay, moving on to warning sign number 4. Maintenance and repairs cause disruption, not planning. Every operation has equipment that needs attention. The difference between a financially stable company and a strained one is whether they anticipate maintenance or just react to breakdowns.
So stability comes from preparation expected maintenance that's budgeted for, maybe through a dedicated fund or reserve, versus the panic caused by an unplanned repair on a critical asset that completely derails your cash flow for the month.
Yes, and these operational surprises, they expose financial blind spots. If an unexpected repair, say a major transmission job, threatens your ability to pay your drivers or your biggest supplier, it means you're relying too heavily on immediate short-term cash. And more profoundly, it exposes chronic underpricing. You thought the job cost X, but you never fully accounted for the true lifetime operating cost, which includes inevitable repairs. If you aren't reserving cash for future maintenance, you are systematically undercharging your clients today.
And finally, warning sign number 5, which touches on leadership culture. You don't trust your numbers fully, and you're relying too much on gut feel. I know so many owners who pride themselves on their intuition, but instinct can only get you so far when cash is tight.
Well, intuition is critical for vision, but cash flow problems thrive in the absence of timely, reliable information. If the management team doesn't know the real cost per kilometer or the true margin on a specific contract, they are forced into reactive, not strategic, decisions.
What are the red flags here, then?
Well, if your monthly management accounts arise so late, say the middle of the following month, that you can't act on them, they're just historical documents, they're not diagnostic tools. And the biggest red flag of all is if you only check your cash position when things feel tight. You're waiting for your gut feeling to be confirmed by the crisis, rather than using data to prevent it entirely.
So if those 5 signs made you nervous, congratulations. That's the first step toward getting control. We've covered the silent signals. Now it's time to put your operation through a quick, simple diagnostic stress test.
Yeah.
This is how you measure your operation against reality, not, hope.
And these are the 5 questions we'd encourage every listener to answer honestly right now regardless of the industry you're in.
Okay, question one. If your single major customer paid late this month, how exposed would you be? Would you need to scramble for a loan just to meet payroll?
Question 2. Could the business comfortably absorb 2 unexpected repairs, a costly engine rebuild, and a major insurance deductible without creating immediate financial stress?
Question three. Is your pricing based on an accurate, real-time calculation of your current cost, including current fuel, maintenance reserves, labor, or are you just relying on assumptions from last year?
Question 4. Do you actually know your projected cash position 30, 60, and 90 days from now? Or are you just looking at today's bank balance and hoping for the best?
And question five. Are you making strategic decisions about expansion and investment, or are you constantly responding to immediate pressure from suppliers, customers, and banks?
And if those questions created some discomfort, that feeling is incredibly useful. It confirms that the system is under strain, and you now have the framework to define the problem and move toward a solution.
The moment you define the problem clearly, you take the power back.
That's it.
So what does this all mean for the owner who's experiencing this paradox of busy but broke? The real risk of waiting too long isn't just surviving, it's losing your flexibility. Our sources emphasize that the majority of companies don't fail from being badly run. They struggle because they identify these structural problems too late, when the options are limited and every decision becomes rushed and desperate.
Early diagnostic work creates breathing room, and that breathing room is your most powerful asset. When you act early, you can address issues internally before lenders and creditors get involved and start mandating crippling changes.
Right.
You can negotiate with suppliers and customers from a position of stability, not limpness. You gain the time you need to correct pricing structures and redefine payment terms, all without the pressure of a looming bankruptcy forcing your hand.
So that distinction, the difference between strong and struggling businesses, it really comes down to viewing financial clarity not as an accounting chore, but as a core leadership responsibility.
Yes, the strong ones regularly step back, they analyze their performance using these kinds of operational indicators, and they stress test their assumptions against reality. They seek guidance and they implement change early.
They shift their focus entirely.
Completely. From reacting to sudden problems to proactively leading the financial health of the business, it's about building a robust financial discipline into your day-to-day operational rhythm, ensuring that your growth is actually profitable and that cash is available when you need it.
And so for a final provocative thought for you to carry forward, if you feel that cash flow is harder, more stressful, and more chaotic than it should be, even while your operations are running full steam ahead, that feeling deserves immediate, structured attention.
Yes.
It is a sign that your success is structurally unstable.
Because the simple truth confirmed by every expert in the field is that clarity always comes before momentum. Businesses that prioritize this internal diagnostic clarity are in a far, far stronger position to grow, to stabilize, and to thrive, regardless of how much volatility the industry throws their way.